It's midnight, and the VFX team at Red Chillies haven't slept for more than 36 hours. But sleep is the last thing on their mind. The clock is ticking.
Every time I was outside marketing the film, I was very confident it'll be done. Every time I came into the VFX room, I was like, God, this is not going to happen.
Ra.One's worldwide release has been announced for October 26, the auspicious holiday weekend of Diwali. 2 years of work now melt into frazzled days and nights as D-Day draws close. Driven by punishing deadlines, the film's visual effects team is under intense pressure to deliver the last completed shots.
There were plenty of heated moments running behind your schedule, and you wanted to deliver shots, you wanted to get your shots approved, but you're not being able to do it in time.
With the film's leading actor Shahrukh Khan already traveling the country promoting the film and the marketing blitz on the road, the VFX team has its back to the wall to deliver the final batch of shots in time.
In panic, I ran from the mix room to the design room to convince and tell my guys, look, the new VFX has come. That's completely different. I don't know how we're going to do it.
Will India's biggest VFX film meet the deadline, or will the release have to be pushed, causing losses amounting to millions to its producers? It is a race against time.
Internationally, I think the people really loved it. The effort was really appreciated. I think a lot of people in LA, London have met me and said, you know, such a proud film, and India can do this.
It's one of India's biggest films ever.
Oh, it feels great. It's Rampal Arjun one.
Shahrukh Khan, India's leading superstar, heartthrob to millions, one of Bollywood's biggest purveyors of dreams. With his eternally boyish looks, cool moves and romantic charm, King Khan, as he's called, can sell anything. From big-ticket blockbusters to TV game shows. He's the face that launches 1,000 products. And his financial muscle backs multi-star productions, laden with glitzy sets, song and dance chartbusters, and emotional dramas. "20 years down his career, King Khan has a dream. He wants to create India's most ambitious and expensive science fiction film, with world-class visual effects and animation wizardry.
I needed a producer with a belief in a film like this. Shahrukh had that vision that India will someday make films like these.
He had a very clear vision about artistic, technical and commercial aspect of this movie.
In the years that we started making this film, I don't think there would have been any other producer who would have produced this film. This has to be a lifelong dream, and then dedication and ambition.
Ra.One strikes a chord with every Indian because it echoes the story of the Ramayana, the first epic of Indian literature. In fact, the name Ra.One is a pun on Ravan, the 10-headed demon king vanquished by a revered hero. In the movie, Ra.One is the villainous video game character who escapes to wreak havoc in the world. And G1, the savior, is a wordplay on Jeevan, which means life force in Hindi. Coincidentally, Ra.One is also a term in digital parlance.
We figured that it may not be a very superhero thing to call him Ra.One, R-A-V-A-N, and we came up with this spelling R-A.O-N-E, Random Access Version 1. So it will still be called Ra.One, but will be a very gaming kind of nomenclature. And the moment that became RA.1, the hero became G1, the good one.
I love the name Ra.One a bit more than G1.
A lot of people told me I should not keep the film's name Ra.One. So I just felt that, normally in superhero films, the main thing is the supervillain. If the supervillain is not strong, the superhero does not really go anywhere.
In Ra.One, the clash between superhero and supervillain is unleashed by a child. A video game designer's young son begs his nerdy father to create a character more exciting than boring heroes. But a programming quirk releases the monstrous Ra.One into the real world, leaving a trail of destruction as the family plot thickens.
The idea of G1 and Ra.One coming out into the real world from the game was a really nice concept. But while I'm playing, they shouldn't come out because I don't want to be in that situation. This stuff rocks. Where's Dad?
More than visual effects and a story, what was more difficult was to bring the superhero world into the Bollywood realm, which is melodrama, music, dancing, comedy, serious emotions. Now, I don't know of any superhero film in the world that can have all these elements in it.
Despite being the world's biggest film industry, and with its global influence growing, Bollywood has lagged behind in the newest visual effects technology. A traditional Indian theme in a contemporary setting, bound together by cutting-edge design, was an idea whose time had come. But how was the challenge to be met?
When I started looking at visual effects films in India, I had a feeling that we have the talent to visualize it, we have the talent to execute it, but we don't have the method to execute it. And I figured that this movie came from a different world that I had never been to. I told Shahrukh I want some of the key players from an industry that has done it before.
The Ra.One team was assembled at home and abroad. It included Jeffrey Kleiser of Stargate as lead visual effects supervisor, Italian-born Nicola Pecorini as cinematographer, Oscar-winning sound designer Resul Pukati from India, and designer Robert Kurtzman to create the special costumes. A 5,000-strong team from India, UK and the US, including 400 at Shahrukh Khan's own company Red Chillies VFX, worked shifts in 14 studios across the world.
I was very clear that this film should be very indigenous. This film should be made in India. It should not be a film which is outsourced. That was a very serious, conscious decision.
The stage was now set, or rather, it required some resetting. In Bollywood's scheme of filmmaking, detailed advanced planning to execute and scale is seldom a priority. The complexity of making Ra.One was a trendsetter. It required many months of pre-visualization of key sequences and became an important handbook for the project's various departments.
Well, as soon as we got the script in hand, we started breaking it down into visual effects, shots and sequences. The first thing which struck us was, wow, it looks like 3,000 plus shots. Because typically Bollywood films have around 100 to 200 VFX shots and most of them are very simple. For Ra.One, the way the film was, and since we were doing it for the first time at this scale, we made it a point, we had a separate team who would only do pre-visualization. What pre-visualization does is it takes it one step further, where we take the storyboard and create an animation out of it. It gives him accurate information as to what lens to use, how the edit pattern is going to work.
A crucial aspect of the pre-visualization was to devise the look of the superhero and supervillain, G1 and Ra.One. The imaginative labor of the process was concentrated in creating body-fitting rubber suits made in the US, 10 for both characters, at a reported cost of 20 million rupees.
Shahrukh is such a huge star that you've seen him in various get-ups, and this is something that the world was going to see him in. This was a huge leap. One had to make sure that he still remained the Shahrukh Khan that they love. Shahrukh and I were in LA. At that point, I had Shahrukh Khan sitting next to me, so I want the best superhero costume design. So finally, we got hold of a gentleman by the name of Tin Flattery.
Like, I remember the first 2 times the suits came designed to us of Ra.One and G1. They must have come in the afternoon, and Anubhav didn't send it to me till night. And then he sent me an email. He said, "Sir, aap dekh lo usko." And he saw it and he said, "Can I come and see you?" So I said, yeah. And he came at night and he said, I didn't think we should make this film. Because they were so completely different from what we had thought, and we had the best people in the world working on it.
So then I created a 23-page document, which was full of images, descriptions, and then came the first draft of the superhero suit, which was very fascinating, but there was something wrong with it. It looked somewhat mean, and we didn't want our superhero to be mean. I shared it with him. He said, okay, I'll make you another one. One day he sent me an image of G1, which I loved. Then we decided, yes, this is G1. Meanwhile, I was still in love with the earlier image. And one day it hit upon me and I said, Tim, can I see this costume in red? And then he made it into red. And that became the Ra.One suit.
The Ra.One suit is crazy. I mean, Shahrukh's was still just halfway. His is a full body suit, and goes all the way down. In fact, it was so heavy that you needed, it's like every time you lifted your hand was like lifting a 10-pound dumbbell.
It was a major challenge to create the high-tech futuristic costumes, but equally daunting for actors to wear them during the long days of filming. Made of high-pressurized rubber, the suits were heavy and made the actors sweat profusely, sapping energy through loss of body fluids.
One of the toughest things to do was to wear that suit. And then, sometimes you took it off at 2 a.m. in the night, went back home and thought, oh God, now I don't have to. And before you knew, you were awake back on the sets, shooting the film, and you had to get ready at 7 or 8 or 9. So you hadn't even got 3-4 hours without that suit.
It's really difficult to be a superhero, especially if you have to wear tight costumes like this. For the first and last time, not after this.
Shahrukh Khan's vision to make India's own VFX film took years of planning and brainstorming sessions. But the big question was, will it meet the deadline?
The first 2 times the suits came designed to us of Ra.One and G1, and Anubhav said, no, I didn't think we should make this film. Because they were so completely different from what we had thought.
But shortly after shooting began, the exorbitantly costly costumes were found wanting. They lacked impact. The impression was confirmed by Shahrukh Khan's teenage son Aryan, who was the star's critical sounding board in the creation of Ra.One.
We always knew we need to add some elements on top of that, which is like they had painted the electricity on his arms, which had to kind of glow. We thought about what do we do? How do we remove wrinkles? How do we touch it up? Me and Harry thought about and then came up to a conclusion that the only way we can do that and make it look spectacular is basically replace the entire suit.
A new challenge now presented itself, of recreating the entire bodysuit on the VFX table. This was achieved through a tedious process known as matchmation that took months.
What we did, we cyber scanned that model, where you will stand with the laser, it will create your model with suit in the computer. That's what we call cyber scan. So it exactly will match.
We started rigging the suit, which in simple word means we put a skeleton. That model of suit had a bone structure, a muscle movement program inside it, so that when he moves his hand in a certain way, apart from the movement of the hand, even the muscle flexes.
Once we put the CGI suit on top, you could actually see the actual suit which was shot. So you had to paint it out so that it looks like there are not 2 suits in the film. We took 1 shot from Carnage sequence for the test. We thought we'll finish it in 5 days. That shot took us 2 months. At this time, Ra.One was not there in the picture, only G1.
G1 was now ready, his costume glowing with digital enhancements. Now Ra.One needed an impressive makeover to match.
The good part about Ra.One You know, we had to change whole suit. That was, compared to G1, was easier, and his suit was thicker, so we could see less muscle movement.
In the ancient epic, Ra.One is represented as the 10-headed demon. In the movie, his face was digitally conceived.
First brief for Ra.One's face was, it should be different, that nobody has seen it before, but most important thing was to make it look scary.
When we started off, we just wanted it to be a molten fire without things being seen, but there was no logic finally of why he should be on fire.
Script, he was called Smoke Face. Somehow, with all the solid electricity concept of that's what the body is made of, a smoke face inside a hood did not sit well.
We realized it's reached a stage where if we do not finalize the Ra.One face in a week's time, we most probably would not be able to release the film on time. And that came as a complete shock.
With less than 2 months left for the film's release, delays were mounting. Over 300 computer artists have been slogging to visualize Ra.One's face alone, but the director is still not happy. Is Ra.One to remain a faceless monster? The answer is blowing in the wind, and the tension is palpable and rising.
There were talks and discussions, and the first thing that came into our mind was Ra.One's face should be a little geometric. We had this cyberscan model of Arjun. First deformed Arjun's head into more of a skeleton face. The next process was to create curves, wires on top of the surface. The idea of putting the wires on the face was when Ra.One would speak, his mouth would stretch as if the lips are stitched. That would make him look even more scarier.
And then came the masterstroke devised by the VFX team to add geometric cubes to wires visualized for Ra.One's face. His body also became a complex composite of cubes. Finally, the film's epic villain acquired a transformation of image and identity.
It wasn't like how we had thought of it. I think nobody had thought of it, but through the briefings that while we were saying, I think this was the face of Ra.One.
As I said, yes, all of the VFX heads slumped into their chairs and a sigh of relief. Finally, Ra.One has a face.
1.5 years of working on the face, it finally got approved 1.5 months before the shot, and it got better than what it was.
Every muscle in my body.
Like पेश करते हैं healthy home paints. Nerolac, कुछ चेंज करें, चलो पेंट करें.
To create the superhero suits and the geometrically formed face took a lot of effort and time, which added on to the mounting pressure of the deadline of the film's release. To portray the demon's multiple avatars in the film Ra.One, from digital cubes to a personification by actor Arjun Rampal, made the visual effects alterations complicated and time-consuming.
Ra.One was a faceless entity and had the capability of becoming anyone.
In the film, Ra.One assumes several avatars, from Akashi, a character played by Tom Wu, to Sonia, played by ace actress Kareena Kapoor, till he finally takes the face of actor Arjun Rampal. Each mutation was meticulously planned and executed by the VFX team to the extent that every cube was tracked and then recreated by computer technology to precisely match each player's physical attributes.
My favorite sequence would be Ra.One Lives.
When I sat with Anubhav in London, while we were doing Recce, and There we actually pre-visualized the sequence, and he said, what I want, these cubes, they comes out of the road like popcorns, and they start making Ra.One's motif.
We knew that it's going to be one of the most complex sequences and tricky sequences to shoot.
And camera action.
There were no cubes, there was camera movement, there was stuff coming out of it, and a whole lot of imagination while shooting.
A guy who was wearing Ra.One's suit and sitting in the same posture. Once the cubic animation forms him and he gets up, that was the shot.
We have written a program which took us more than 9 months to basically simulate this cube. Each cube is programmed in such a way that it actually knows where to fit into the whole body section. That sequence has taken more than a year to produce.
Roll cameras and action!
The film's high-octane action sequences present more intricate challenges. How is a car chase set in London as Ra.One goes on the rampage to be made thrillingly original?
The three elements that can make a chases look different from another. The location, in this case, was London. The emotion in this chase was the person chasing had superhuman capabilities. And then there are gags. I thought of Akashi beginning to run faster than the traffic. Our stunt coordinator Andy came up with a great idea of pulling a rag mat with a vehicle. And Akashi is actually running on that mat. And that mat will then be cancelled. It will be made to look like road.
And if the physical impact of one car colliding into another fails to make it soar into the air, can visual effects solve the problem?
Ra.One game के बाहर कैसे आ सकता है? आकाशी कैसे बन सकता है? What's going on?
When we got the brief that we are going to work on a chase sequence, we thought normal action sequence. Later down the line, we came to know that there are CG cars which we have to add, and there are car crashes which we have to add to make it look absolutely real.
So we started taking photographs of that car, taking the light references, and we started building the model.
Then we started texturing those cars with the car paint and the textures, how the dirt will affect the car. There are some scratches, and the car should look convincing. They should not look as if they just come out of the showroom. With this chase, we were actually chasing a dream to make this sequence look class apart.
The challenge for the actors was to act against the green screen. As Bollywood does not make many visual effects films, this was a new experience for most of the actors.
Half of it was shot in London and the other half was shot in a studio against the green screen. It was really tough to do that scene because I had to imagine there are cars around and we are cutting them, and Akashi is behind chasing us, and there's a bus in front of me. But there was no bus, there was just pointers.
So we tried to figure out a way that when we are telling an actor, we had a young kid in it, when we're telling an actor all this is happening around you, if we can visually show it to him before.
2, 1, 5. While I was doing the rehearsals, Harry made a rough VFX of the scene, and he would show me where all the other cars are, where Akashi is, and when he would come ahead and he would pull me. And that made it really easy for me to do the scene.
Enter G1, the Savior. His confrontation with the evil Ra.One is one of the high points of the film.
Most trickiest was the car max, throwing cars.
3, 2, 1, action.
Back when I started thinking, I did not give a damn about how it will be done. I just thought.
We had references of that car, how it will fly, and we shot it reverse. But that kind of didn't work out. What happens when it comes, and when he catches, it becomes slow. And we didn't want that. We wanted the car to come really fast at him when he catches. So we had to create completely a CGI shot, including his body.
The highly acclaimed chase sequence required the team to digitally create cars and crash sequences.
With this chase, we were actually chasing a dream to make this sequence look class part.
However, the VFX team was still not sure if all the effects would be completed before the release of the film. Another question arose. How to create the forceful magic of actors suspended in midair. For this effect, the VFX team used a technique known as time slice, where the same action is shot by multiple cameras from several angles to convey the powerful impact of being ejected skywards.
In this sequence, also there's a time slice there where 60 still cameras were used to create a sequence where the characters are frozen, but the camera moves 220 odd degrees. 2, 1,
jump. And cut it!
How do we shoot Jeevan and Akashi standing on top of the cars? You can't build a platform, 30 feet high and take everything up and then you do this, because we had to put 60 cameras. It had to be done indoors. Once we shot that, we knew exactly, what we required for the background. Team made a scaffolding which was 25 feet high. And I went on top of that and started shooting photographs, series of images, which we stitched finally. Now using that plate, we mapped it in the computer. Once you map it, you put the camera, match the camera setting exactly what we had shot for the indoor sequence, and you could give any camera movement after that.
This sequence will make James Bond look cheap.
In the epic, the Demon King abducts the heroine to carry her off to the distant island of Lanka. But in a sharp cut to contemporary reality, Ra.One hypnotizes her and puts her on a speeding suburban train without brakes. Mumbai's local trains on which millions travel daily were used for the hair-raising ride. Visual effects were instrumental in piecing together shot footage into breathtaking stunt sequences.
We did a fair amount of pre-visualization of the entire train sequence, which happened in discussions with the director and the action directors as to how are we going to execute those shots.
The train sequence is very amazing in the sense that it was shot in Lonavala. So the background there was trees and mountains. And we had a sequence where our train was moving from Bandra to VT. But people have an idea what that route looks like. So transporting Lonavala into Bandra and VT was an amazing task.
The VFX team came up with another innovation.
We wanted to go through real stations, real people as plates. So what they did was they mounted those 60, 70, 80 cameras in all possible directions. So what they got was a virtual visual tunnel of background.
The first thing we did was to place buildings on the Lonavala shots. Later on we realized that even if we had replaced the buildings, and we realized that the tracks were not as your Bandra CST tracks. Therefore we had to build a lot of CGI backgrounds, CGI buildings, or CGI tracks, and a lot of work then increased.
But the job was far from over. When the team saw the sequence, they picked out a missing element.
We went through the first draft of the compilation of backgrounds with the shot. We somehow, one shot where we thought something is missing, something is wrong. And then we realized that, oh my God, the station is missing. We thought we were in big trouble because we have not prepared a station in our asset list. And yes, finally we did create an authentic looking station with the extra bogies and the passengers around. And all of this on a CGI table.
And there are shots which cannot be shot with Shahrukh because they're too dangerous. So it will be shot with a body double, and then they will do a face replacement.
I just recovered from a shoulder surgery, so it is very difficult, especially the jumping and flying on the wire is difficult, and to do it gracefully.
Face replacement of Shahrukh was a little tedious because the body double's face was a little smaller than Shahrukh's face. We had to model the face first, track the face.
This was what was shot. And in the film, this is what you see.
I'm sorry.
There were too many people, but luckily we had them, and we did almost everything we needed to do, and maybe more, and nobody got hurt, so that's good.
One of the high points of the movie is when a Mumbai train crashes through the city's iconic Chhatrapati Shivaji railway station. A situation impossible to shoot in actuality. Again, computer technology to the rescue. The collapse of the 19th century Gothic train station from the force of the hurtling train was an illusion that proved to be a major task for the VFX team to accomplish.
When Anubhav and Shahrukh came up with this idea of we're gonna make PT crash, the first thing as from the VFX point of view was, wow, sounds good, but how do we achieve this?
We had not done this kind of work previously.
We created an exterior of VT at the Pawan Hans airport in Juhu. So the VT wasn't there, the road was there. And we created a massive blue wall behind it. We were placing cameras for the traffic against the blue screen where VT will finally come. And that VT will have elements of a miniature.
Before you go into miniatures, you have to take all the information, know what lens you are using, where it's placed, calculating everything.
In this particular case, the director wants the building to collapse, which is a bit more difficult than making a building explode.
Everything now seemed in place, but as in life, the best laid plans can appear wanting.
Every muscle in my body had just...
It took months of pre-visualization to create the train sequence and design a miniature for the film's pre-climax. However, not all went according to plan.
A steel cable snapped and The miniature CST didn't break. We had to manually break it down part by part, and then VFX came to the rescue and salvaged the situation.
The entire work started with adding the cracks onto that particular walls of the CST station. So we designed the cracks, and we also worked out as to how the debris and stuff will come out of those cracks and how to make this thing look real. That eventually followed with a statue break. There is a statue on top of the CST monument. So we designed that entire statue break. We did a lot of simulation tests as to how it works. Eventually locked on to one particular event and simulation which really looked really nice. And when Jeevan tries to stop the train, we also had to add a lot of power plus effects to make it look convincing that he's applying that amount of force onto the train, and the train speed also was very important for us, so that the weight of the train and the speed of the train also should look convincing.
When I saw one of those crash shots, unbelievable.
Any visual effects production is heightened with superb sound technology. Ra.One raised Bollywood's bar in sound design by taking it to a whole new level.
Every film needs a good sound here. So when it comes to technology, I was very clear that sound should be as good as it gets, and you have Mr. Rasool Pukati, who's won an Oscar award.
Earlier it was like, good camera work, good set, good looking heroines and hero, good locations. These were considered to be the production value of the movie. Of late, they have understood the fact that a good sound can also be good production value. I wanted the Dolby 7.1, which means upgrading the entire country.
And then he told me that, if I do that sound, it will work better on 7.1. So I said, let's put that. Let's give everyone a full, wholesome experience of what technologically cinema should be.
I think the biggest achievement of this movie for Shahrukh as a producer and an actor, and for myself, is upgrading 2,500 screens in this country. I could have done only with this movie.
The ultimate test was the film's 13-minute climax by using a combination of live action and computer technology. The final contest between the superhero and supervillain is played out as an interactive combat in 3 stages. As in the video game from which the characters of Ra.One and G1 erupt into the real world, with every stage of the game, the level of difficulty rises for G1. This threw up new challenges for the VFX team.
So you have level 1, which is they throw fireballs and all of that, they throw at each other. The level 2 is almost like a guerrilla warfare kind of tactics. And the final face-off is almost like a spaghetti western standoff that happens between 2 cowboys.
Game ready to play. Game shoot. Welcome, Lucifer. It's all right.
To create that aura, we took the audience to level 1, where a part of the set was live, a part of the set was generated in visual effects.
One of the key features of the climax was the creation of multiple backgrounds merging with each other, including elements which were interacting with the environment. Multiple explosions and impacts had to be created to give the full effect of the climax.
Level 1, where you had gags like planks breaking, you had wall breaking, droplet shots where each droplet evaporates. We had very different kind of effects in that. There were constant switching of the CGI characters with the real ones.
Ra.One's audience was witness to some world-class visual effects in the film. How is the rising crescendo to outlast the final action in the final minutes going to be reached?
Glass shard shot was such a challenge that the set, Shahrukh, glass shards, nothing is real.
The glass shot was a major shot, and it took 135 hours for one frame to render, and it had around 250 frames, which took around 12 days to render on 125 machines. We couldn't go wrong in that. If even one frame is corrupt, you have to re-render that. Overall, when we calculated, it took around 40,000 hours to render.
In level 2 of the climax, hand-to-hand combat between the superhero and the supervillain used a mix of live action and computer graphics.
Anubhav wanted to show what happens, when two energies meet, like negative and positive energy. So he had some kind of ideas like, in a boxing ring, when two people are fighting, when you see those things in high speed, you see sweat comes out, and he wanted to represent a similar thing digitally with Jeevan and Ra.One. Then our team started working on how it looked like. Because they are made of cubes, cubes can open out and you see sweat comes out in digital form. But it should only come out in some shots where you see those shots in high speed.
Battle between good and evil is recreated in 3 levels, which includes 3 different fighting techniques and various kinds of special effects. And the last stage of the 3-tier battle was a masterstroke of the epic's retelling. A manifestation of 10 Ra.Ones reflected the 10-headed Demon King.
Level 3, where we had to show destruction. We spoke to Nicola, a DOP. We asked him, what kind of lighting we have given to this. He said, it should look like as if it's end of the world.
The whole drama and build-up happens.
You should be careful what you wish for, kid. क्योंकि अब तुम्हारे पास एक नहीं 10 है.
And suddenly this source of light, the sun behind these 10 Ra.Ones comes out, and you realize that there's only one of those 10 that creates a shadow on the floor, and that is the real Ra.One.
When I was shooting level 3, they had put a green screen. I had to imagine that there were 10 Ra.Ones standing, and then they had taken this thermocol piece, they had cut it in Ra.One shape, and they would keep it, and they would put light behind it, and there would be a shadow falling down.
We had to shoot that thing with motion control camera. Now that became more challenging because we had to replace the suit also. 10 Ra.Ones you see in one shot, as well as 10 suits put together, everything, it kind of shot was so big because there were so many elements. If there are 100 layers for one suit, that kind of became 1,000 layers.
That was one hell of a set. Normally a double roll is seen as complex. This was 10 Arjun Rampals moving in all directions, crisscrossing each other, cameras moving.
While we were doing that, we were sitting and compositing and seeing things working or not. And once we finished that, we showed it to Anubhav and Shahrukh, and he saw it and he said, yeah, this is what I want.
In the end, when the real Ra.One is shot at, his body explodes, goes up in the air.
With typical Bollywood panache, the ancient and modern worlds of myth and computer technology were dramatically bridged to emphasize the sacrifice of good at the altar of evil.
goes and lands under the rain of those tubes, he absorbs them all, which is a very Shiva concept, that the poison that he drank and stored it here. So it came from there.
The character Jeevan dies in the climax. Shahrukh had once told us it is long-time wish to have his body broken up into pieces. So we used the same cubic element to break his body apart.
King Khan's dream was finally realized. As Ra.One flooded cinemas around the world, the cacophony of audience reactions, critics' opinions and box office results were tempered by waves of relief. For the superstar himself, the odyssey of creating the most technologically advanced Indian film held a simpler, human and universal truth. It was a film made for children. All children who regard their fathers as superheroes.
Kids love it. I know this wherever I go now, whichever city, everyone says Jeevan, everyone wants to wear a Jeevan costume, which was the target audience.
I personally believe that my father's always been my hero, and I'm glad to do this film because this film says the same thing.
Ra.One the movie has come and gone, but it remains a milestone in Indian cinema, proving to the world that India is ready to push the envelope and produce quality VFX films.
The sense of ambition was that there is a technology which should be utilized in films. And if it can be done, then it is going to pave the road, it's going to open doors for people to try even more, better, much nicer, cooler stuff with that technology.